They're dead, Dave.
What, Captain Hollister?
Everybody's dead, Dave.
What, Todd Hunter? What, Selby? Not Jen.
He's dead, Dave. Everybody is dead. Everybody is dead, Dave.
Red Dwarf is back. Holly is back. We're back. It is time for another episode of Everybody is Dead, Dave, the Red Dwarf review podcast, where I, Phil Hawkins, a longtime fan, and Adam Martyn, the relative newbie, go through every episode of Red Dwarf. And we're up to Series 8.
Series 8. The last of what Phil's told me is, what was it, the original run? The classic run? What's the classic terminology there?
I don't know if there's an official terminology. Like, you know, we have like classic Doctor Who and New Who. Is the, I don't know if there's an official one, but the original run. Yeah, the BBC era. That's good, because then you've got the Dave era after that. So the BBC era is coming to a close at the end of this series. And then there's like a 10-year gap after that. So yeah, cracking on. And we've got another guest reviewer with us today, Rebecca Phythian, who is an actress and also partner to Adam Martyn.
That's right. Got the other half on the podcast. And as Phil said, like, Phil, you're a long-time fan. I'm relatively new to this, about a year in now. Becca, what's your experience with Red Dwarf?
I mean, I've got very limited experience. I've seen clippets of it like over the years, and I've always thought, this looks really weird. I'd probably like this a lot, but I've never got around to watching it. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity to actually sit down and watch Red Dwarf.
Wow.
So in the last year, that Adam's been watching this, he hasn't forced you to sit down and watch it with him or anything, or do watch ones with him.
I think when he first started, he did suggest to me, oh, you know, do you want to watch a few episodes with me? And I was just like, oh, yeah, maybe, yeah, fine. And Adam will tell you, I've got the worst attention span. Like, I'm literally like a 5-year-old. So I need like 30 seconds to focus on something. And if I'm not gripped within 30 seconds, that's it. I'm away with the fairies. But to be fair, I don't think we actually got round to giving it a chance together.
No, I don't think so. I mean, obviously, when we started this, Phil, we were still in a grip of a lockdown as well, and we're in 2 different locations, so that would have been a bit hard to stream across, especially now it's not on Netflix or BritBox anymore. Just a fun story to get this around right. So when I said to Becca, let's do this, I thought, oh, hang on, how is she going to watch it? Because, of course, it's not on Netflix, and obviously do we say it's not on BritBox anymore, is it? Not the first 8 series anymore.
No. It is on Now TV.
It's not Now TV, which, Becca, you used to have but don't have anymore. So I thought, right, what are we going to do? So using from Christmas my new handy-dandy Blu-ray drive, I don't tell the BBC, I ripped the episode from the Blu-ray and sent it via a Google Drive. So technology does work in favour. So.
It worked very well. I was very impressed.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, at least we got the episode to you then. We're talking about Back in the Red Part 1. This is the first part of a 3-parter. This is going to be strange for you, Rebecca, because you're watching just Part 1 and just reviewing Part 1 of a 3-part story. But it is Part 1. The nanobots have rebuilt Red Dwarf, as we discovered at the end of the last season. And Lister Kochanski, Kryten the cat, find that the nanobots haven't only rebuilt the ship, they've also resurrected the whole crew.
Yes.
And that is where we find ourselves. The episode's in typical Red Dwarf style. We ended on a cliffhanger last series, and with them discovering the ship, flying into it, realizing they were tiny compared to the ship, like they were like almost microscopic. And then it ended. That's the situation. And then we start this episode in a completely different situation, not knowing what's going on. Adam, did you think this was another one of those they're just glossing over it thing?
Yeah, I thought, we're not doing this again. I mean, Red Dwarf, Becca, just saying, if you want a show that is very strict with continuity, this is not the show. There's been season finales where stuff has been teased, and then the next season will literally be like, we're just not even going to talk about that ever again. So I thought this was one of those moments. But eventually, and we'll get to it as we go, eventually it does come back to what's going on. But yeah, this start was very odd for me. Of course, we get the usual as the theme song plays, like, little snippets of what's to come this series. And it seems like we're going to get a lot of, I'll be kind and say, interesting CGI. This was 1999. I know that's quite a while ago, and technology was very different. But yeah, I think there was a dinosaur at one point in that title sequence, and I was like, ooh, that is a CGI dinosaur. But yeah, so I will be kind. It was over 20 years ago. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to what's to come, and we're in this prison. But one of the first things I noticed is not just Red Dwarf's back, Rimmer's back.
Rimmer's back.
Arnold J. Rimmer. Just for context, Becca, it was the guy on the guy on the bottom bunk, the one that's not Craig Charles.
I did a very good job at picking up names. I was very impressed with myself.
Good. That'll make our job easier. But yeah, Rimmer was sort of, I think it was in like half of the last season, wasn't he? Because the actor, Chris Barry, was it he wanted to do other things? Or
he had his other show, British Empire.
That
which,
was it. He was
the sole lead of, really. So he wanted to focus on that.
Yeah, but it's so good to have him back. And Becca, for you then, as a new fan, I mean, right from the get-go, I guess we've got the whole dynamic between Lister and Rimmer. What did you think of this opening scene then?
I really enjoyed it, It was so playful. It reminded me of me and my sister when we were kids. Like, usually I'd be the quiet one where I'd be like, no, I'm not talking to you. And Jess, my sister, would do everything in her power to annoy me, to be irritating as hell. And she succeeded in, like, getting me to react. And I just loved that sort of, it was just banter between them, really. Even though obviously Rimmer doesn't say anything, it's all in the expression, and I just loved that. Yeah, really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really sort of quick-witted start to the episode, and I connected to it massively.
Yeah, he's a great physical actor, Chris Barry, who plays Rimmer.
Definitely.
And Phil, I guess that dynamic the two of them have, it's almost like they've never been away, was it? They've just
and it was so good to have like one of the classic like bunk scenes again, because this kind of like one on the top bunk, one on the bottom bunk scenes is something from the first few seasons that they had all the time, and then they kind of moved away from it. So it's kind of nice callback to earlier times, and it was a lovely scene. I was kind of wrapped up in the nostalgia of it when it first started, and I was kind of wondering where they were going with the jokes. I wasn't finding the whole magazine.
That went on a bit too long funny. For me.
Yeah, this is your classic. It went on too long.
Adam's classic. The joke went on for too long, but it did. Like it was funny at first, but I mean, there's only a certain amount of times you can say an 83-year-old dad, and it's still being funny. Well, for me anyway. Like
yeah. Well, I kind of I wasn't that. It was kind of the opposite way around for me. I was kind of like, that whole scene got funnier as it went along. I didn't find that whole 83-year-old dad thing particularly funny. But then once he got into the trying to get Rimmer to speak, with, like you say, with the physical comedy and everything, that was really funny. And there were some nice callbacks there to earlier seasons as well, including Yvonne McGruger.
Yes.
She got a name check, who is Rimmer's sort of one, how do we phrase it? One notch on his bedpost.
The only notch on his bedpost, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, I guess to ask you, Becca, like in general, like that, I guess that opening scene sort of is a good example of the kind of like humor and tone of the Red Dwarf humor, I think, Phil, for like a lot of it. But yeah, just to like generally through the episode, what did you think of like just the humor aspect that they're going for? Because there's a bit of everything sometimes. Like there's physical humor, like there's quick-witted humor. There's even some, I guess you call it like vulgar humor, maybe. Like what did you just think of the whole the humor tone of it?
Yeah, I think throughout this whole episode it was really quick-witted, and I wasn't expecting that. I don't know what I was expecting, but it was a pleasant surprise, really. I found myself laughing out loud quite a lot. But for me, it's the physical humour that I find absolutely hilarious, like in anything that I watch. So I was particularly drawn to that. And I would agree with Phil actually in that first scene towards the end when it was very physical. That for me, I was really engaged with it. I found it really funny to watch. But yeah, I think I quite like the humour. I think I'd like to watch the other parts as well to see how the humour differs in the same sort of storyline.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And then we get... Well, actually, one question for you, Adam. How long did it take you to notice? Because at this point, we don't know about the resurrected crew.
Are you talking about...
Yeah, how long did it take you to notice that Rimmer didn't have the H for hologram
on his head? Pretty
head?
quickly, to be honest.
Okay.
I actually wrote, I said, there's no H on his head. Are we back in time? Is this another dimension? Again, on Red Dwarf, the ship can sustain one hologram of someone who's died. But to show that they're a hologram, they always have a H plastered on their forehead, which Rimmer has had throughout the past 7 seasons. So yeah, pretty quickly I was like, "There's no H." I'm poor Chris Barry. I'm so used to. I bet if I met Chris Barry in real life, I'd be like, "Where's your H, mate? Like you ain't got your H on your head." So yeah, pretty quickly. So I thought
I was gonna say, that's something that I knew was that one of the characters had a H on their head, and I was like, I didn't see a H.
Yes.
False promises. We've led you down a path here.
But interesting fact. But before this series aired, they did I think it was maybe like a comic relief or a children in need like little skit that involved all of this cast. So it was Rimmer was back, but there was also Kochanski there because Kochanski only came on board, Rebecca, after Rimmer had originally left last season. So she's a relatively new permanent character. But this skit had all of them in it. So it's kind of doesn't fit in any way chronologically.
Oh,
really.
but Red Dwarf doesn't care.
In that, though, because it was so close to this airing and they knew what they were going to do with this, to not give it away, they did have him with his H in for that. So that he wouldn't give away that he was going to be resurrected in this.
Very clever.
There we go. But then we skip to skip back to 3 days earlier and we find out what did happen after that cliffhanger. We're talking about dodgy CGI, but actually I think the CGI in this bit was actually quite good.
The Starbug CG was all right.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that they've remade the shots from last time. So the ship is Red Dwarf is different. It looks different than it was at the end of the last season. And the shots of them flying into the hangar and stuff have been remade as well. And the CGI is much better than it was at the end of that season. So I think this CGI is all right. What do you think about the CGI, Rebecca? In the episode in general, you can talk about other bits as well. But
I didn't have high hopes. I really didn't have high hopes.
Is that because it's from the 90s and you just kind of assume that it wasn't great back then?
But I think watching it now, I mean, it's hilarious because of, in some respect, how poor the CGI actually is. But, if I was watching that for the first time in the 90s, I can imagine being really impressed at, like, the absurdity of what they've created. And, that, it's... Yeah, I quite enjoyed it, actually.
Go on, Phil. Good. Tell us what it was like in good old 1990.
All right, yes. Yeah, I'm old.
We were around too. We wouldn't have just been watching Red Dwarf. Maybe a tad too young in 1999.
Tad too young. How old were you in 1999?
I was 3.
4.
Sorry.
I was probably watching The Lion King.
I'll back that up. That's
in fairness,
true.
I was probably also watching The Lion King as well as Red Dwarf. So there were some lines I liked in this while they were crashing. First of all, we get the CGI rat. Which maybe is slightly one of the dodgier bits of CGI, but was quite amusing when they fly, as they are so much smaller than the rest of the ship, fly into the rear end of a rat and end up flying the rat.
I never thought I'd see the day.
Yeah,
it was quite humorous, and in a way, the CG made it funnier. Like when they actually get out of the rat, and the rat just sort of flies off into a corner. It made me giggle. But one of my favourite lines was when Lister comes in showing that his body's fixed. He's got his chest out, and I don't know why, because sometimes the cat's one-liners sometimes don't really land for me, but this one did. It's when Lister's like, look, my body's fixed, and he just goes,
there's an invitation that will not cause a stampede.
I don't know why. It really got to me. So that's a potential funniest moment for later.
Yeah, I also like the cat's brown alert comments.
Brown alert,
maybe we should switch to brown alert. And then I think Kryten questions that they don't have a brown alert.
You won't be saying that in a minute. And don't say I didn't alert you.
Yeah. And of course we see Norman Lovett's back for this series as well as Holly, which is great. What do you think of Holly, Becca?
I absolutely love Holly.
I thought you might.
Like Holly's first appearance when he's like, should we have a game of charades with our nose? Is that a no then? I was literally like, I was on the floor. I just couldn't stop laughing. I love the deadpan like delivery of his lines, and every time he came on screen, I think because I'd laughed so much every time I'd seen him, it was like the expectation to be really impressed by his delivery was there. I really, really enjoy that character.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's good, Norman, isn't he? We like Norman.
He's great. His delivery is spot on here, and that line was 100%. Hilarious.
Yeah.
We do get a line that I was wondering what you guys thought about it. It's Kryten, I think it's Kryten, isn't it? That says, I don't understand. He's sniping at Kochanski again, and he says something like, I don't understand a woman who is approaching 30 and still sleeps with a cuddly bear named Boo Boo or something like that.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of that? Because just to give a bit of context, Kryten has had over the last season kind of very adversarial relationship to Kochanski. He kind of thinks that Kochanski's going to take Lister away from him. So that's the kind of background to his feelings of Kochanski.
Yeah.
Which might make some sense of some of his lines in this episode that you wouldn't have known before.
I mean, I thought on one hand I got it because it's like, again, it's referring to that whole adversarial thing. But the last episode of Series 7, I think we said that they both actually worked together more to fix a common cause. So, and we said it almost felt like some development for them. Like every interaction doesn't have to be them like sniping at each other. And it also it just came out of the blue. It felt like they wrote it in because they're like, we want a joke, so we're going to tell a joke. It didn't really land for me personally, but it is what it is.
Yeah. I would say the same actually. Now that, because obviously I didn't know any of that. So thank you, Phil. But now that you've said it, I see that sort of the bickering between them, that sort of it's almost like they're competing in a way throughout this episode. It wasn't like overly prominent, but it was definitely there. But that line just kind of went a little bit over my head. Like I didn't really get it.
Yeah. It's like, well, what's wrong with having cuddly toys when
yeah, man. Stop
exactly.
shaming.
We get another great line when this is when they fly into the rat, and I think there's a line there that only Holly could deliver, which is the rat ass joke.
Oh,
I think if any of the other cast had delivered that line, it would
have flopped.
But because of his delivery, it somehow is actually funny.
I hope we don't get stopped by the cops. They don't like it when you're rat-arsed.
Yeah. I think he got a little bit of a clap from the studio audience as well. If I remember rightly. So, but no, it was a good gag. I never thought I'd find so much enjoyment from our lead characters being shoved up a rat's ass. But there we go. I'm willing to be surprised every day.
They do eventually. I was going to say they get to normal size, but actually it's the other way around, isn't it? The ship is huge and it's shrinking back to normal size. Yeah. So they eventually get into a corridor, and it's too big. So the ship breaks apart, and there's a big dramatic crash.
Yeah,
which I think
lovely
was
model
all
work.
Model work.
Yeah.
And that looked fantastic. The model work often holds up a lot better than the CGI does. So
yeah, I had to laugh though because throughout like the past few seasons, Becca, Starbug, this ship has literally been indestructible. It's been like submerged underwater. It's crashed into various things. I swear it's been marooned several times, yet they've always got it back. And yet, so seeing it actually break apart and explode, I was like, really? I was like, this is what got it after. Do you know what I mean, Phil? Like, after all this time. So it's quite surreal seeing little old Starbug actually explode on screen. But, you know, there we go.
But it's okay. There is another one. They passed
probably
it
like,
when they were
they did
in.
pass it. Yeah. Oh, there we go. That's that.
It's all right. There's more. They once they crawl themselves out of the wreckage, though, they're greeted by 3 people in like hazmat suits. Very made me think of like Back to the Future when Marty emerges in his yellow hazmat type suit. And they it's the crew. This is where they find out the crew has been resurrected, and it's a couple of Lister's old mates. I can't remember the names of these guys, but one of them has been in it before, hasn't he?
Yeah.
The guy that also played Nigel in EastEnders many years ago. I think it was Nigel. He's there. No Peterson though. No Olaf Peterson.
Yeah,
who was his like best mate.
Yeah, and played by is it Mark Williams? So Ron Weasley's dad for some of you out there, or Rory Williams' dad for any Doctor Who fans out there. I think it's Mark Williams. I think I've got that right.
Yeah. It is. I'm pretty sure it is. And apparently he was asked back, but the filming clashed with his filming on the Fast Show, the sketch comedy show.
Fair enough.
So he couldn't do it, which is a shame. But he does get a name check.
He gets a name check, and there's some lovely callbacks to like way back at the beginning of series 1, like the old bunk, like the old bunk set.
Yeah, get
like,
to see the old
grayscale and all. And when we see Rimmer, he's got his, I guess an updated version of his old grey or beige uniform. So yeah, lots of nice little things where you go, like you see it and you're like, I
remember that.
I remember this. References for anyone who's seen. I mean, I know me and Becca. Oh, you have as well, Phil. But to avoid the audience, if you've seen the new Spider-Man film, it's kind of like that, where things happen and you go, I know what that
no
is.
Spoilers, but
no spoilers. I mean, you all should have seen it by now. Come on, like, what are you doing?
I didn't see it for like 3 weeks.
You held out for a long time.
I didn't avoid the spoilers, though, unfortunately.
Never mind. Like, if I've seen it, then everybody else should have seen it. That says everything you need to know.
Yeah. Very quickly, though, Captain Hollister also returns, and he is there and comes out and arrests them for stealing Starbug. So they're in
and then
hot
we get
water.
the shouty man.
The shouty man. Yes, the shouty man was great.
Yeah. So what did you think, Becca, when all this was happening then?
This was about like 15 minutes in, and I think at this point I realised what was going on with the crew, and like that they like the resurrection and all of that. So it was about 15 minutes in, I paused it and went, oh, like I actually, the pennies dropped.
Yeah.
I was a little bit, what's the guy, who was he now? Like a sergeant, was he? Not the shouty one, the other one.
The one who approached them, the captain, the one with the American accent. Yeah.
Very questionable American accent at times, may I say? Oh. I mean,
I think he's actually American.
Is he?
I think so.
Oh, that's worrying.
Let me. I'm going to look that up.
Was his name like Mac McDonald?
Mac McDonald, is the actor's name.
Yeah.
Is he American British?
Yeah, he was born in Long Island, New York. An American actor.
Yike.
I wonder if he spent a lot of time in England then, maybe.
Was it the same actor? Go on, sorry.
I was just going to say, it was like a weird sort of, it was like a hybrid. Like,
he has spent a lot of time here then, because I've got one of my best friends is American, and he moved over here when he was 14, and he's lived here ever since. So he's now lived here over half his life. And to me, he still sounds American. But when he goes to America, they all say he sounds British. So
yeah,
it's probably this weird hybrid kind of half and
I think
half.
we had when me and Becca were at university together, a few people on our course were American, and I swear even then, like when they went home for Christmas, they said their friends are saying, "Oh, you sound so British," even though to us they still had like their American. It'd be certain words or like turns of phrase that they'd picked up from us.
Yeah.
100%. I found his character, I don't know what it was. I didn't really connect with the captain. And I guess in some ways, he didn't get a lot of screen time in that particular episode. So there wasn't really much of a chance to connect. But I don't know. I just found the way he played it very safe.
Okay.
He's got this kind of like weird, like he's not very good at his job, and we get that in scenes later on, like when he comes out of the toilet and stuff as well. That he's just kind of like a slightly bumbling captain.
Right. Cool. All right. That makes sense. I mean, still, I wasn't a massive fan of that character. I don't think I really, I was neither here nor there about them.
Yeah. I did like the line when he's chatting with one of his subordinates and she's saying about the rumours about the ship, and he's like, how the hell did you know that? And she's like, a coffee dispenser on G-Floor told me. Because the machines on Red Dwarf, they have personalities. So just idea that a coffee machine was like, hey, did you hear about this? And she's like, I don't know, that tickled me a little bit.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, probably the utensil or the machine with the most funny personality outside of like the actual AIs.
Don't say it.
Talkie Toaster. There's a
toaster
that is determined to get you to have toast or toasted beverages, toasted
just toasting
snacks
anything
at any time of the day. He's constantly hounding people to have snacks. He appears in a couple of episodes. That's quite funny.
Oh, he's not upcoming still, is he?
Spoilers, Phil. We may see him again.
Talkie Toaster again.
Yeah.
Okay, then.
Maybe not this. I can't remember if it's this series, but we do see him again at some point. Yeah. So we get him in the bunk. He talks to Holly again, Lister. It appears that Holly isn't known to the rest. Their version of Holly isn't known to the rest of the crew because the captain at one point says, "Oh, we haven't been able to get Holly back online."
Yes. Yeah.
The crash did something. But their version of Holly, they've got on their little watch, which they can transfer to the screens and stuff. So it's like I can't remember if there's going to be an episode with two Hollies, if they get it up and running, or if that's, I don't know what's happening there.
Okay.
I can't remember. So even though I've watched this series several times, some of it was like 10 years ago, the last time I watched this. So my memory's a bit flaky.
Yeah.
We get a line where they're talking about potential punishment for their crime, and it might be 2 years in the brig, which they find out there's a whole like prison on the ship that they didn't know about. And Lister goes, "Oh no, 2 years without sex." Now I'm already thinking they're like, you've just gone like 6 years without sex. So
yeah, like why should space. 2 more years be any worse? Yeah.
Yes.
Typical Lister though. That's first thing on his mind. The bit throughout this though that got me, I think the next scene is the one with Kat where he's being examined.
Yeah. We get him. We do get Lister meeting Rimmer first before.
Oh, we do. Of course, we do. Yeah.
Which is like that's when he realizes that Rimmer has also been resurrected, but then very quickly realizes, and he says, "Oh, it's you like he used to be."
Yeah, even more of a so and so than
because
usual.
Rimmer is always a bit of a git. Basically, he's and he is throughout the whole run, but he did get a bit of character development. And they kind of did become friends towards the end of his time last season, and then he went off. So there's this new version that is just like the complete git that he was at the very beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was quite funny. And he manages to recruit Rimmer to help them to try and get out of the situation they're in. He sort of offers him and says he can get him promoted. So so it plays on Rimmer's self-serving nature.
Yeah, how he says he can't be bought out of his principles and then immediately says, okay, what is it? Or I'll do it or whatever. Good old Chris Barry.
Yeah. And then there's the cat scene, is it?
I think so. Do you know what? I love this. The cat's funky heartbeat and pulse. I was jamming along in my seat. I was like, yeah, it's a good beat. To be fair, I was like, I want my heartbeat and pulse to sound like that. And all the little things like how his inside, what was it like? His inside, all his
intestines are internally decorated or something.
They're color coded.
Yeah, color coordinated.
That's it. Yeah, because the cat's all about fashion and all about looking your best and the whole I don't know why, it's very childish. The 6 nipples gag got me as well. I don't even know why. I just love that scene. It was a great scene.
It was a great scene. I never like to be too negative about the acting on the show, but I don't know. There was something about the Doctor character that seemed a bit wooden. I don't know what you guys
was that
thought about
the female doctor?
Yeah, she was kind of... And I guess we're going to get that a bit now. We've got a potentially expanded cast that we're going to get more people in and more people that are just kind of throwaway there for just one scene and stuff. But yeah, she just, I don't know, there was something about it that kind of rang a bit strange about her delivery of the lines. I don't know.
Yeah, what did you think, Becca?
I didn't mind it too much, actually. I think the focus in that scene was on the sounds more than anything.
Yeah.
And the cat's reactions, like as he was bopping his head along, and then obviously you had the captain that was like grooving. Yeah. So I think that role is very much the sort of the person that's in the middle trying to be the blank canvas in a way. I think it was intentional. And I kind of liked it, actually, to have this sort of trio of like the inquisitive one, which was the captain, then you had the cat, which was just sort of observing it and sort of being in their wonderful weirdness. And then you had the nurse, which was just like, okay. I love that bit, actually, with the pulse and the fact that the pulse was different to the heartbeat. I thought it was genius. I had a good chuckle to that.
Could only happen to the cat as well. It's such a cat thing, really.
It did make me think of being, Doctor Who fans, like people's reactions when they hear the Doctor's heartbeat and the fact that it's two heartbeats. Obviously, on an extreme level, his isn't dancing around, but it did make me briefly think of that. One of my favourite scenes, I think, comes next, which is Kryten being assessed by the onboard psychiatrist, which was just hilarious.
Yeah. Robert Llewellyn, who's the actor at his absolute... I mean, this is your chance, Becca, I guess, to see Kryten as Kryten is. I mean, what did you think of this scene?
I think it was... Well, I didn't know, actually, whether this was my favourite part of the episode, because I had, like, 3 favourites. But it was definitely up there. I just love the fact that we get to see all the emotions that robots never get to show in one scene. And he just did it so well. And it was so, like... I don't know, that it was snappy. The pace of the scene was really good. And I think the contrast between Kryten and the psychiatrist was just brilliant. Like they were listening to each other and bouncing off each other so well. I thought it was hilarious. Really, really funny.
Robert Llewellyn's another one, I think, where his like physical acting is, especially under all that makeup as well, just really shines through. So
impressive. The whole makeup, everything, like really, really impressive.
When he started going through the emotions, displaying all the emotions he can do, and you think he says, like, his first one is like, "Oh no, I'm going to die," or something like that, and then it's sadness, "Oh no, I've died." I thought it would it was always going to be a take on that line. It's sort of like that. I'm sure you guys have done it in various acting classes where you have to do one line but with different emotions, the same line but with different emotions each time. I thought he was going to do something like that. But it kind of went down a slightly different route. But like you say, it was absolutely hilarious with the physical comedy and things.
It just made me think of all those auditions, like, "Oh, you've said it this way. Can you try it now and say it like this, please?" And it'll be something like completely, often like you're saying, it'd be like, "Oh, I can't." You'll be like, "I can't believe she died," and they'll be like, "Right, can you say it now, like as if you've just won the lottery?" And it's like, okay, but
all the different emotions kind of felt very. Not quite where they needed to be, but that was the Kryten charm about it, if that makes sense. Yeah. And that's what I loved about it so much. Like, that told me more about his character, and I was like, I feel like because of that, I became a lot more fond of the character as well, because you got to see a little bit of his personality, which obviously is should be robotic, but it's
is anything but in the best way possible. I like the like you say, the psychiatrist sort of being like, okay, like, all right, well, because I guess that's the stereotype. Of course, not every psychiatrist is like that. I'm sure there's many great ones out there, but I guess the stereotype of anyone like that is this, like, oh, we're here to listen, and yet they're like, okay, like let's it's that very like condescending,
slightly
like,
condescending, patronizing. Yeah, absolutely. And he's like, "So you're a robot, aren't you?"
Oh.
like he's talking to a toddler or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when Kryten tells him when he was built, and he's like, "Now that's the future, isn't it?"
Yeah, that's the future, isn't it? Yes. Is that chair screwed down?
Yes.
That'll be the recurring gag.
Yeah, his delivery on all those lines was brilliant, I think. I loved him. I hope we see him again. Again, I can't remember. I hope we do see him again because that would just be funny. And it ends with him making his assessment, which is that Kryten should be reset to factory settings.
Yeah, which hopefully doesn't go ahead, because then we'll have to do that character development all over again.
No, he's just learned to break all of his programming and everything.
I know. And back to square one. Well, we'll see. We'll see in part 2 whether that happens or not, I suppose.
Yeah. And then we end the episode with finding out what exactly Lister tasked Rimmer to do, which was to go into the wreckage of Starbug and retrieve a data disk, I think it was.
Yes.
With all of the... We knew that from earlier because they'd had a conversation about what they were going to do. That Lister would be going, I can get you promoted by having... I know all the dirt on all the crew because I've had free reign of the ship for like 8 years or whatever. So he goes for that. But while he's there... he finds the luck and sexual magnetism viruses, which were from a previous episode several years ago, where they had come across these various positive viruses that do good things. And he drinks the sexual magnetism one.
Because of course he does.
Of course he does.
Yeah.
What is it he says when Holly asks him if he's going to take some?
Oh, it's like, is Paris is a plaster or something?
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
And then he strolls back through Red Dwarf and all the ladies say, "Oh, hi."
Yeah.
They do it at the same time as well.
They
like,
do,
all of them are like, oh.
It's like magnetized. Well, it is magnetized, sexual magnetism.
Yeah.
And what's that line he finishes? It's like, everyone loves a bastard or something like that.
Yeah. And then
which I guess is true of his character, really.
Yeah.
Because we love Rimmer, even though he's a bit of a bastard sometimes.
Yeah.
So... Yeah, to be continued as well, of course.
I did love that bit with Holly as well on the screen where it says sick bags on standby.
Oh, yes. Bags on standby.
For a minute, I was like, oh, he's froze. And then I realised he wasn't. He was just like holding the position. And I was like, that's that. I love that. What a great way to end it.
Hold of general disgust.
Yeah.
Before we go over like our usual segments, I just think I was a bit disappointed that we didn't see more of Kochanski, the woman of the crew, because the last we see of it, there's that corridor scene with Kryten where she's like, "Oh, and that's where you met me," and he's like, "Yeah," and throws his notebook away.
Another rearing at the head of the rivalry between them. Yeah. Yeah,
but we see, obviously we see Lister and Rimmer doing their thing. We have the cat scene with the heartbeat. We have Kryten with the psychiatrist. So she sort of got left out a bit. But I guess this is one of a 3-part story. So I'm sure, at least I'd hope, she's going to feature more prominently in parts 2 and 3. But yeah, just because we see her, obviously. But again, lovely Red Dwarf thing out. They don't even attempt to make her look like she did at the end of Series 7. Like, the actress has come back, her hair's longer, they've given her a completely new outfit.
Her hair is a completely different colour.
Different colour. But again, Red Dwarf, they probably just like, who cares? Like, they don't care. So, but no, it's good to see her. But yeah, I hope she has more to do. I hope they just don't do a Red Dwarf thing where they're like, right, we're back now, let's just forget about her and go back to the 4 main boys. Because even though I've had my gripes, I've grown a warmth to Kochanski over Series 7, so it'd be a shame just to cast her aside. Give her a proper send-off if you're gonna get rid of her.
And so after this episode, Rebecca, are you gonna seek out parts 2 and 3 at least of this particular story to watch?
I think so. Yeah, definitely. I'm intrigued to know where it goes, and I did genuinely enjoy the episode. I found it really funny. I think for the most part, I followed it for like 90% of the episode length.
That's good for a first timer.
Yeah, I think for me in general, that's great. It's quite an achievement. So yeah, no, I'll definitely be checking out the 2nd and 3rd part.
Yeah.
I'll have to get ripping parts 2 and 3 then on the Blu-ray.
Yeah. Yes. And then once you've finished with the Blu-ray at the end, because the Blu-ray only goes up to the end of this series, doesn't it?
It does.
So once you
I'll have
finish
to get
it,
the
then
Blu-rays for the
you
next
can
ones.
pass the Blu-rays on to Rebecca.
Oh,
and
I
she
can
start from the very
series
beginning.
1 to 8, yeah.
Yes, you can,
Very good
Adam.
place to start. Yes, I can, yeah.
Excellent. Well, we do have some regular features on the program where we talk about who our favorite characters are, what our funniest moments of the episode were, and finally rank it sort of out of 10. We didn't see the Scutters. Where are the Scutters? They're back on Red Dwarf. We need the Scutters back. The Scutters are little robots that run around repairing things on the ships. So we mark the each episode out of 10 Scutters. So, Rebecca, who was your favorite character in the episode?
Holly.
Nice.
Yeah, definitely Holly.
Yeah.
It's Norman Lovett is so good and such good delivery on those episodes. What was your favorite? I might be stealing from the next question then if I pick. I'll leave that for a moment just in case it's your favorite moment as well as a Holly moment. But what about you, Adam? Who is your favorite character?
Holly came close for me, but I'm going to give it to Rimmer. And I think that was just because, I've missed Rimmer these past few weeks. So it's been great to see him. Chris Barry's, it's like he's never been away and he made me laugh. So yeah, going to have to give it to Rimmer for my favorite character. And what about you, Phil?
Oh, well, we've all gone for different people this time.
Nice.
I also almost gave it to Holly. It's great to see him again after several years of him not being on the show. But I didn't give it to any of the regular cast. I gave it to the psychiatrist guy.
Who very good.
Did literally crack me up with every single line he delivered.
Hello, I'm Dr. Lucas McLaren. I'm the ship's chief psychiatric counsellor. And I thought it was about time we got together and had a really good natter.
My name is Kryten, sir.
Lovely. We are doing well, aren't we?
Just his delivery was fantastic. Perfect, and I really hope we get to see some more of him at some point this series.
Good guest
character. As he maybe reassesses each of them in turn or something like that. I don't know, but that would be good to see him again. What about funniest moments? Rebecca, what was your funniest?
It was probably we're about to crash scene and then suddenly Holly appears, and it was that whole bit of like the sequence for him and the pauses between. I think it was just played beautifully. Yeah.
All right, dudes. Anyone fancy a game of charades using just your nose, or is this a bad time?
Oh, you were about to get crushed to death?
So that's a no then, is it?
Like I said before, it was that deadpan face, which I presume, does he always have the deadpan face?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
That's his whole shtick.
Even better.
Yeah, that's his shtick.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I thought it was brilliant. It was very much my kind of humour, that bit. Yeah.
What about yourself, Adam?
Well, for mine, I was tempted to go with Holly's charades gag, but it's going to have to be the whole cat heartbeat and pulse scene. That just got me in a way I didn't expect.
Do you think I'm going to have the dorky human heartbeat? Where's the tune in that?
Well, that whole scene, as I said, all the gags in it really made me laugh. So yeah, it's the cat scan scene. That's what I'll call it.
Cat scan, yeah.
Cat scan, yeah.
Cat scan.
What about you, Phil? Have you gone for something completely different again?
I mean, based on my favourite character, you can probably guess that my favourite moment is that scene with Kryten. Because of the both of them, excellent deliveries in that scene. Kryten with his physical comedy and what he does with his face and his delivery, and the psychiatrist as well. So yeah, I'm going to give it to that scene.
Top dollar.
Right, so marks out of 10 then. How many Scutters out of 10 would you give this episode, Rebecca?
Oh,
we do take 0.5s.
Yeah, we take 0.5s.
You know what? I was going to ask this. I would say 7.5.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Adam?
I'm going to give it an 8.5. I thought this was a really decent season opener. I'm curious to see where it goes. I say returning characters are on form. Nice to have an expanded crew again. Just again, bit more Kochanski, just a bit more balance across the whole team, but I'm sure that'll come. And as we said, some of the jokes either went a bit too long, like the whole 83-year-old dad at the beginning. But yeah, no, I thought this was pretty solid, so 8.5 for me. What about you, Phil? Are you one of those two in the middle? Where are we going?
I'm going higher. I'm going 9.
Oh, a 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10. I forgot, because Series 8 gets a lot of flack from the fans. And that some of that I'm pretty sure is justified later on. But this, I think, was a really strong start for it. It was funny throughout. I was laughing out loud throughout. Yeah, there's some moments like the long joke at the beginning that don't quite land, and like some of the acting, like from like I said, the doctor character wasn't 100%, but they're like really small quibbles. And for the most part, I had a great time the whole way through. The story was strong, comedy was strong. Yeah, just really enjoyed myself.
Oh, good time. Well, hey, all positive reviews all around. That's always good. We've had some guests before, like where, well, either me or Phil or that one person will be like, didn't like this at all. And the other will be like, oh, right, okay.
Yeah, no, I did enjoy it. I feel like my rating of Scutters may change because it's one of those, like, it's the first episode I've watched. So when I have something to compare it to, it might change. So I'll report back and I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Once I've given her the Blu-ray box set, then she'll let you know.
Tweet along as you're watching it, each episode, little mini reviews, and then we'll retweet it on the podcast
on the
Twitter
podcast,
account.
Yeah.
Perfect. Absolutely. I will do.
Well, that's it then for another episode. Back in the Red Part 1. We'll be back for Back in the Red Part 2 next week. And as we continue on, thank you for joining us, Rebecca. It was lovely to have you.
Thanks.
A pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Do you have anything you'd like to promote? Do you have any social medias you'd like to plug, or anything else, or anything you are acting in at the moment you'd like to plug? Bear in mind that this episode will not be out for several weeks, so if it's something that's only going to be on for another week.
Well, at the moment, I'm planning loads of really cool events with my theatre company, Blue Balloon Theatre. You can find us on all social media platforms at Blue Balloon MCR. And my social media is Rebecca Phythian, which is PhyThian.
There you go.
Nice. And where can people find you, Adam, on socials and the
Where can you
internet?
find me? It's just Adam Martyn. That's Martyn with a Y. Thank you very much, you English-speaking people. That's the Welsh heritage coming out there. But yeah, Adam Martyn on YouTube, on Twitter, it's Adam Martyn AMTV for daily ramblings and all sorts of other things. And yeah, and Phil, what about yourself? Where can the people find you?
Best place is probably my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Philip Hawkins, 1L in Philip, and talk about Doctor Who and other geeky stuff. This podcast is up there, all those sort of things. Probably the best place to find me. And of course, you can follow us on our own Twitter accounts for the podcast, which is at All Dead Dave Pod. And you can also buy merch. We've got merch. We've got mugs.
Like this mug,
Adam has
which
his
you
mug.
can't see, but believe me, I am holding a mug.
It's a
Becky,
very
you can back me
nice
up.
mug.
Thank you very much.
You can buy
But
mugs,
yes,
you can buy t-shirts, you can buy face masks. Very important in this current
safe.
Time.
Stay safe.
Although somebody in our comments, since we started plugging the merch, has been very keen to point out that cloth face masks aren't as effective as the N95 official, proper ones.
The what and the what now?
Cloth face masks. This is my public service announcement part of it. But it's better than nothing. So please do buy a face mask with our
Please
cartoons.
wear a mask. Yeah.
So there's lots of stuff on there. Link will be in the YouTube description, so you can find that as well. That's all for this week. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.
See you later.
Bye.